Don't you just hate Don Lemon?
Does this offend you?
He claims to be a journalist. He's nothing more than just a TV personality spreading his stupid opinions all over the internet. What an idiot.
We didn't want to listen to that bullshit.
He somehow thinks he's the all-knower of all context. He knows how everything goes down always because he's Don Lemon.
I think there's context to everything. And you weren't there, you didn't hear the whole thing.
So let's go ahead and jump into this video and let Don Lemon shove some of his stupid thoughts right down your throat.
Today, President Trump, talking with lawmakers in the Oval Office about immigrants from Haiti, from El Salvador, and Africa, said, and I quote, "Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here?" And CNN is told that he went on to say, "Why do we need more Haitians? Take them out." Those comments are frankly disgusting. There's other language I'd like to use, but we are on television.
Oh, Don, don't act like it's because you're on television. This is what your entire network is right now.
Shithole. You probably come from a shithole.
Shitholes.
Shithole country.
I am a proud shitholer.
Shithole countries, shithole countries, shitholes, 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 shitholes.
It's a shithole country.
But yeah, we're on television, so let's not use that language. And Don, were you there? Did you hear what he said? I mean, it is all about context, remember?
I think there's context to everything. And you weren't there, you didn't hear the whole thing.
So if you weren't there, you're just gonna take somebody else's word for it? What kind of journalist does that?
Apparently we have to go through this repertoire every time he says something like this or exhibits some racist behavior.
You have to, or you choose to, Don?
His supporters made excuses, continue to make excuses for him, but he is a racist.
He is a racist, damn it. He is a racist. Stop making excuses. He's a racist.
And for all of you who over the last few years have uttered that tired, lazy, uninformed, uneducated, ignorant response of calling me and others who point out racist behavior racists, you know what you can go do?
Way to unite the country, Don. I mean, it's not like you run around calling everybody racist all day. If you supported Trump, you're racist. But now, if we return the favor and call you racist, we're tired and lazy and uninformed and uneducated. Don, how do you feel when somebody says that to you?
The reality is that these racist, xenophobic views are one of the most consistent opinions that this president has.
Was that a question, Don? Was that a statement?
Well, Don, it's not about race, as you like to make it, because that's easy and lazy. It's about economics. My comment back to Maria is your children are going to have a much better economic future and a better chance for a good job than they would have had under another president. Now, let me, you called on me, so let me finish. Truer words, minus
you know what, John Fredericks?
You know what, John Fredericks?
John, until that last comment,
I'm going
to cut you off. Can we please cut him off? Can we take him off the screen? Can we get rid of John Fredericks? Thank you.
Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah, look how you act, Don. Somebody calls you tired and lazy and uneducated or whatever, and you just want to say, they gotta get off the show. Can you cut them off, please? We don't want them on here anymore. Oh my God, imagine that.
You also might want to do some self-examination. What does it say about you that no matter what, you continue to make excuses for this man, for his vile behavior, this sort of vile behavior? Doesn't that make you just as bad, if not worse, than him?
Do you hear yourself, Don Lemonhead? Do you really hear yourself? Do you hear how you're talking to at least half of the country right now, and you're gonna sit here and act like you're not trying to divide the country, claiming that all of his supporters are worse than he is because you think he's racist. So now his supporters are even worse than that. Come on, Don.
I've been outraged too many times. It's more important to be strategic than to be outraged. Some people can be outraged, but it's more important for level-headed people to be strategic rather than outraged. Otherwise, it becomes a sky is falling situation every time he says something dumb or stupid or racist.
Level-headed? Don, are you even listening to yourself right now? Every single time you just said it, every single time you think he says something racist, you have to go all out. The sky is falling, Don, and it's falling all over CNN.
People of color warned you. You called us racists or race baiters. I'm not mad that you call me those things because I'm not one of them. So why are you mad if someone calls you a racist if you know you're not one? Think about that. If you know you're not a racist, then why are you mad about it when someone calls out racism? What does that say about you? You know what those black and brown folks who you call racist are saying now? They're saying you bought it, you own it. And as we say in the South, and you know what this means, bless your heart.
Bless your heart, Don, because you're so stupid. You actually think we're listening to this garbage and believing it. People of color warned you. What do you mean, people of color? Do you speak for all people of color, Don? People of color warned you. And if you want to make the argument that you shouldn't get mad if somebody's calling you something that you're not, why do you get so mad when people call you fake news? Is it because you are fake news, Don?
A new poll shows that the majority of white Americans believe there's discrimination against their race. 92% of African Americans feel they're discriminated against, right? And then it says 55% of white people think that America discriminates against them as well. Go on.
We can't get nothing. We can't even get discrimination like to ourselves.
You want to be discriminated against? Like, what are you talking about? And look at Don's stupid face, laughing and grinning like an idiot.
White people are not oppressed for being white. White people are not systematically or systemically disenfranchised for being white. White people face all kinds of burdens for lots of reasons. It's part of what it means to be human. But whiteness is not an impediment to social mobility, to social prosperity, to success, to happiness. Doesn't mean it never happens, but as a systemic issue, it doesn't happen to white people. And it darn sure don't happen 50+% of the time.
I would say go talk to any kid that's trying to get into school right now and ask them about how hard it is to get into certain medical schools and law schools, specifically because they are white, and they would be part of, I'm sure, that 40+% that say they're discriminated against. You have had several students that have purposely mismarked their forms after not getting into schools to see if they could get in as under a minority or other marking, and it worked for them because they were discriminated against because they were white. I also think this says
That's
that about
55% of the white population?
No, I said it's not crazy for some people that are white to think, am I being profiled because I am white? And there's a lot of people that are talking about white privilege and that you get everything, and there's some people that want to stick it to white people. I think that's also very clear. That's what a divided America looks like.
Mark, I'll give you the last word.
Look at Don Lemon's face when somebody throws some pure hard facts in.
Well, first of all, white privilege isn't about saying white people get everything. It's about saying that there are certain things you get in life just for being white that we should all have.
If you're black or a minority group, then it's much easier for you to get into college because there's scholarships dedicated specifically for you. Oh, if you're a minority, come on into college. It's easy for you. Oh, if you're a minority, we definitely want to give you a job. The government's forcing us to give you a job. Even if you're worse than all the other white people that are applying, we have to hire you because you're a minority. But here we are on Don Lemon's segment acting like white people have everything only because they're white.
I don't doubt that 55% of white people feel discriminated against. I'm saying that there's something wildly irrational about 55% of white people in America thinking that they are being discriminated against because they are white. That is simply untrue. And
Is it wildly irrational that 94% of African Americans think they're discriminated against when in reality it's not even close to that in America? We are a pretty free country.
Well.
Now y'all both you laugh because I'm white and I mentioned the obvious, statistic there that's 90. You believe that 94% are
you left out the detail.
No.
I'm laughing because I don't see where one has to do with the other. I'm not doubting that you feel that way.
They don't.
Oh my God, I am pretty sure this dude is about to explode.
I don't disagree with you about there's a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers, but we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Nice face, Don. Don't even know what to say.
Go on.
I asked a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
Do you not see the stuff that you say on your own show?
I am one who always says that you should comply with police officers, especially as a man of color.
That's
when I'm
exactly
stopped by a
correct.
police
And
officer,
I tell my kids the same thing.
Officer, why are you stopping me? Yes, officer, or whatever. Now, I am an American. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to be yes sirring anybody, right? I'm a grown, you-know-what man.
You don't have to say sir, but if he's giving you the law,
but I do it because I want to stay alive. That's why I do it. I shouldn't have to. Now, my friends, my white counterparts, don't do that.
they speak to police officers in a way that
Reckless.
I would never
I
in
speak
a
to them just like
million
you do.
years do.
Recklessly.
And that is the reality of it. I have to do that because I want to stay alive. I don't want to be shot and I don't want to be killed. And I am someone who is never in trouble.
Don brings up a very good point with this. Then this notion that compliance and respectability can save someone's life in an encounter of police is not the reality for black men in this country. That is a problem.
He sits there and act like all white people talk like crazy people to the police. Like, what are you talking about, Don? Do you not remember this guy?
Newly released body camera footage of this police shooting shows Daniel Shaver's last moments.
You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand? Please do not shoot me.
Begging for his life.
Then listen to my instructions. I'm trying to do what you don't talk, listen! Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're gonna fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
An officer then orders Shaver to crawl toward him. Shaver complies, but then moves his right hand behind him despite the warning.
But yeah, Don, white privilege.
He said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie.
That is not a lie.
It is a lie.
Yes.
Show me.
Research.
Show me.
The research
Show
that
it to me then.
that we have from the Washington Post. That
the Washington
facilitated
Post
study.
debunked that nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said
Sheriff,
this, Don.
There's also research.
He
from
continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are
than other
wrong in your interpretation of that Harvard study because I read the study. That's not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
that in shootings of the most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that that study was a very small sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research he found that blacks were treated differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings, he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, did you just hear what Don said? One study that was done on a very small portion of the police departments. A lot of people didn't even think it was credible, but for some reason, he's using that entire study to base his arguments against this cop. Well, the article's really not that credible, it was only done with a very small amount of police officers, but yeah, all cops are racist.
So there's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos, and it's the American police officer who goes down there on a daily basis, puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people. So when you say we just want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation.
So Don, which is it? Are all lives supposed to be protected, or are only black lives supposed to be protected? Make up your mind, Don.
He doesn't have to worry about some conservative or someone who may be bigoted or racist saying, hey, why don't you do things for white people? You're the president of everybody. We get that. We get that he's the president of everybody, but he also has a responsibility as a black man, to help that from which he came. And that's from the black community and for the people who helped get him in the office and who stood by him the most.
So yeah, the president should definitely only help black people. And whenever somebody comes up to him and says, hey man, what are you doing for white people? You're probably just a racist.
Let's have a conversation about the black on black crime, which kills more black males, which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff. Yes, that's a different conversation.
Classic Don. Somebody throwing in some facts and he's like, oh, we can't talk about that now. We'll have to talk about it at a different time, which is never. They never come back and rebuttal with the other arguments. They just kind of leave it at that. All cops are racist, man.
Do you think that race plays a part in wealth distribution or either a mindset that you can't or cannot? Yeah.
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. Hey, you and I, we're proof. Why would race have anything to do with it? Put your mind to what you want to do and go for that. It's kind of like religion to me. It's a good excuse for not getting there.
Yeah. I said, and it's probably get me in trouble, but I said to some of my colleagues recently, so I know that it's an issue, But it seems like every single day on television I'm talking about race, and it's because of the news cycle, it's in the news, but sometimes I get so tired of talking about it, I want to just go, this is over, can we move on?
And if you talk about it, it exists.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like it exists and we refuse to talk about it, but making it a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem we have.
So I understand you recently had a birthday.
He doesn't like where things are going in the conversation, so he's like, oh, you had a birthday?
So I understand you recently had a birthday.
And it's so funny. Don just sits there and it's like, oh man, I'm so tired of talking about racism. I mean, it's always in the news and that's all we talk about. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so sick of it. Well, Don, why don't you stop talking about it? But instead of not talking about it, Don has made it his full mission to only talk about racism.
The President of the United States is racist.
Stop pretending that that racism doesn't exist. Straight up racist. Undeniably racist tweet. Racist, racist, racist. Racist, racist. Racist, 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 racist. Does this offend you? Does this offend you?
And it's funny, earlier he's talking about people call us race baiters. You specifically make it about race. Always like talking about, I'm a man of color, a black man. Shut up.
And later that same night, giving several bizarre performances on Saturday Night Live. One where he ranted about Trump and slavery and the media and plantations, to name a few. Chris Rock was in the audience. He recorded it and posted it on social media. A lot of people did.
There's so many times I talk to like a white person about this and they say, how could you like Trump? He's racist. Well, if I was concerned about racism, I would have moved out of America a long time ago. You see, they laughing at me. You heard them, they scream at me. They bully me. They bullied me backstage. They said, don't go out there with that hat on. They bullied me backstage. I think the universe has balance. 90% of news are liberal. I feel kind of free. I thought this country said I could be me.
Okay, so it was very uncomfortable. The host was Adam Driver. He left the stage. You could see the cast members some of them were like, just had their heads down. They don't let you leave the show until it's over, and that's 1 a.m. Eastern. This went on after the show, and people wanted to get up, including us, because we didn't want to listen to that bullshit.
What do you mean bullshit? You mean somebody stating their opinion? You mean a man of color actually going up there and telling how he thinks it is? And then here you are going to sit here and make fun of him for doing that? Don, you wouldn't do that, would you? Not to a man of color. I mean, God, dude, that's not discrimination or anything.
And those on the right don't have that avenue. They don't have a Saturday Night Live. They don't have Hollywood in New York. And he's specifically calling that out. And also making the point, one thing I disagree on, he's saying, don't so much follow your heart or your head. I think you should be able to follow your heart and your head and do things, whether you're making a political statement or entertainment, doing it from the heart and from your head at the same time.
And there are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood, by the way. But Steve, go ahead.
Well, there's not plenty, but and to that point, Don, I think it's telling.
There are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood. Don, what are you talking about? The only show on TV that was even remotely conservative was the Roseanne Show, and you see what happened to that.
Roseanne's tweet was straight up racist, undeniably racist tweet.
But yeah, Don, let's keep going.
You called it a rant. You called it bullshit. You called it bizarre. I don't think you say any of those terms when leftists in Hollywood get up at every single award show.
Okay, let me stop. Every point.
Every point.
Let me go. Every point. Okay, so that point you're wrong, because if in order not to be a rant, right, it would have to make sense. What he said did not make sense. He kept throwing up topic after topic and not explaining. No, it didn't make sense. And you weren't there. You didn't hear the whole thing. What you heard were snippets on the internet. You didn't hear the entire thing. Okay.
I heard the entire thing. Yes, I did, Don. How do you know what I heard or didn't hear? I heard the whole thing, Don.
There goes old Don again, acting like he's heard everything and he knows everything, and this guy's never heard anything. Like, what are you doing, Don? And I wonder if it was him that actually heard clips, or if it wasn't you, Don, that only heard the clips, and now you're reporting on clips that you actually probably didn't even watch, and somebody else wrote all the words on a teleprompter so you can read the words from somebody else's point of view, even though you didn't even see anything. but I'm sure you watched the whole thing, Don. You are the knower of all context.
I think there's context to everything.
And let me tell you, you know what I heard? I heard him talk about the intolerance of the left, and I heard him say that they demand conformity. The
If
worst
you
kind of
think
conformity,
Saturday
which
Night Live
conformity
is
of
the
thought.
left and they're intolerant, then why would they invite him there? You think they're stupid? They don't know what Kanye's going to do? You don't
I
think
sure
Kanye
do.
did all of
Right,
that
and look
in
at how they-
rehearsals
and-
before
and
before
look-
the show? The
and
the
look
entire
at how
week of
they
the show, people were
treated
tweeting
him,
out
Don.
Kanye has
Look at how they
lost
treated
his
him.
mind. He's wearing a
And they told
Kaepernick
him-
shirt and a Donald Trump hat. You don't think they knew that? So why would
told
they
him-
invite him there if they didn't want that
All
message
right,
to get out?
Don, did you invite me here to answer questions or just to talk?
No,
about
I
it?
invited you here to tell the truth, and you're not being honest. But go on.
What are you talking about, Don? They knew exactly what he was going to do, and that's exactly why they brought him on the show. They wanted to make fun of him. This is what you are doing right now. He went on the show, and look what you're doing. His speech, that wasn't even aired on TV, but I can almost guarantee it, if there was a liberal up there making some sort of stupid speech about discrimination, that would have ran all night, no problem. That probably would have posed a much different segment on your show. Hero comes out at Saturday Night Live. You're so stupid, Don. And what are you talking about? He's not being honest, Don. He's just telling you his opinion. He's saying what he saw and what he thinks about it. Now, somehow he's not being honest. Or maybe it's because you want him to push your narrative.
Wait, what lie did I tell? What lie did I tell?
You said he made sense. He did not.
He made perfect sense to
You
me.
called.
By the way,
You
that's
said
an
that they
opinion,
were
and
the
you do
liberals
this-
did not want him getting his voice out and what he said to get out. They invited him there and gave him the platform.
No, they did not give him the platform. They not for his speech about. And look, what he talked about is true when he said that 90% of performers, 90% of media are uniform, and they're uniform on the left, and they're uniform in their derision for Donald Trump and for his supporters. And what he's saying is, which I think is an important
Is
message,
that a
and
scientific
brave one,
mathematical
is that we
fact?
people,
About 90%.
It's not that hard to figure out that most people on the TV are left-leaning people. Look at all these news stations right here. Oh, wait, what's that? Only one of them is on the right? That's weird, Don. I figured it would be pretty 50-50. No. And look at all these late-night talk shows, Don. I'm pretty sure it's 50-50 conservative liberal, right?
Wrong.
So yeah, Don, I would almost say it's a mathematical and scientific fact.
We people of color have been taken for granted by the Democratic Party for decades, and it has not resulted in the security and prosperity of our communities. It's time to try something different. And he, as an artist and a businessman, is saying, I am willing to listen to Donald Trump, partly because of the early results that are greatly increasing the prosperity and security of minority communities. You know, that MAGA
Early
hat should stand
result,
for
Don.
minorities are great again. Because
I don't think so.
Hispanic
Early
wages
results.
are surging.
I mean, the African
Black
American community.
unemployment
Minorities
is
are great again.
plummeting.
Oh my God. Go ahead, Nina.
Yeah, oh my
Minorities
God.
are great
Yeah, I must
again.
call on
That's the
Jesus
new
right about
MAGA.
now.
And
I
it's-
must call
and
on
it's
Jesus.
because
That is pure, cold, hard racism right there. From 3 African-American people. Let's break it down. Kanye West, super thriving, rich black artist. Chris Rock, the guy that filmed it, that was laughing at him in the audience. Black, super funny comedian, rich, famous, successful. And then we got these 3 goofs on CNN, all people of color, all laughing at Kanye West and all laughing at the black community, acting as if, ha 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 ha, it's not great. This woman's literally calling on Jesus.
Yeah, I must
again,
call on
that's the
Jesus
new
right about
MAGA.
now.
All of them completely successful in their own way, all have their own careers, making plenty of money, can provide for their family, but somehow everybody discriminates against black people.
I think we're witnessing someone who's obviously going through some things, and it's happening, unfolding on
Real time
national
on live
television,
TV. Yeah.
unfortunately. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to cast aspersions on people. But his facts are wrong. And I think, you know, and I don't mean this, I'm so upset by this story. I'm over it. I'm sick of talking about him. I want him to pick up a history book.
You're over it. You're sick of talking about him. Don, you get over and sick of talking about a lot of things, and here you are still talking about all of it. Why don't you quit CNN and go get a real job?
Maxine Crump, who you from your hometown,
I
Baton
saw
Rouge.
Maxine today, yeah.
Maxine was on the show last hour. Her great-great-grandfather was sold as a slave to Georgetown University.
Her great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't give a shit what happened to my great-great-great-grandfather. Like, what? Why are you even talking about this shit, dude?
And I would start with, if I were Kanye, because I want to help you, Kanye.
You want to help him? What kind of moral high ground do you live on that you think you're somehow better than Kanye? I want to help you, Kanye. Well, maybe Kanye wants to help you, Don Lemon.
I would start with 1400s. And if I were him, I would look up Cape Coast Castle, which I visited in 2014 with my mother, and when we were talking about our backgrounds. I would start there, and I would start with the Ivory Coast, the Gold Coast, in Africa, the Slave Coast.
Why do you like living in the past so much, dude? We live in 2018, and yet you're still living in the 1400s? And why do you always bring up the past? Why can't other people bring up the past, Don?
Don, when I lived as a teenager in the South and my dad lost his job standing up for a black waitress.
You're not
when he
answering my
lost his
question
business
now.
because
You're
he
not
hired a black
answering my
woman.
question in the
I
moment.
am answering
Don't
your
take me
question,
back
Don.
to some
I
before
am
the
answering
war
your
crap. I want to hear what
Don,
you're saying
Don,
to the
I
coworkers
am
you work
answering
with
your question.
now, Jeffrey.
I am
Answer the
answering your
question
question.
now. I don't want to
We
hear
had
about
to
stuff
fix-
from
we had to
50
fix
darn
white
damn years
Don.
ago.
So let me get this straight, Don. He can't bring up something that was over 50 years ago, and you could bring up something that was over 600 years ago.
President Trump mapping out a larger strategy when he takes to Twitter and goes on the attack, particularly when going after people of color like me and LeBron James.
There are a lot of congressmen, Democratic congressmen, who vehemently disagree with this president, are on television all the time saying how much they disagree with him. Senators too. He does not use them. He chose the black woman and said this is their new hero, which is a lie, right? You know, Maxine, she's a prominent person, but nobody's saying that Maxine is the face of the party. But he wants to make her that because it is useful to him, because it is a weapon and it is a tool, right?
Because, just say it, because of his...
Because it's race.
Because of his
It's race and it's misogyny as well, though, because...
Yeah, man, just say it. It's racism. Just say it. We want you to say it. That's why we brought you on CNN, so you could say racism. Please say it.
It's race.
That's all Don Lemon is ever worried about. And he wonders why people call him race baiters. Every single segment he has is on race. The only people talking about color are you.
There is a difference between, a huge difference that America needs to understand about people who perceive themselves to be forgotten because of political strategy or because of politics or because someone is trying to use them in the vote. There's a difference between that and people who have been historically forgotten about and discriminated against. There's a huge difference in that. One is a perception, the other is a reality.
Yeah, guys, just so you know, because you're so stupid, perception and reality are two different things. They're hugely different. One's real and one's not. So just in case if you forgot white people, you have white privilege. Racism isn't real whenever it comes to you. I mean, don't forget, guys, you do get a lot more than everybody else just for being white.
So as we know, President Trump doesn't like anyone to disagree with him or to criticize him. So he tweeted this late on Friday night. He said, LeBron James was just interviewed by the dumbest man on television, Don Lemon. He made LeBron look smart, which isn't easy to do. I like Mike. I have pretty thick skin. And LeBron James, in addition to being a brilliant black man, a superstar in his sport and a hero to his community, is taking the high road, which is exactly where he belongs.
Brilliant black man. Can't just call him a man like everybody else. Has to be a brilliant black man. Can't just be a brilliant NBA star. Nope, he's got to be a black one.
So since this president, since he spews so many insults so often, the president has called a lot of people stupid. Some of those people are white. But I would just like to note that referring to African Americans as dumb, remember this is America, referring to African Americans as dumb is one of the oldest canards of America's racist past and present, that black people are of inferior intelligence.
You can't even call African Americans dumb or that's racist. Don, what are you talking about? You can call white people dumb, you can call brown people dumb, you can call anybody dumb you want, as long as they're not African American. Because if you do call an African American dumb, that's racist.
The New York Times is trying to diffuse the uproar created with the hiring of their new writer, Sarah Jeong. Critics are outraged by her history of controversial anti-white tweets. She calls it counter-trolling. They call it racism. So what is it?
What do you mean, what is it, Don? I mean, you do know what racism is, right? You run around screaming it all day, so why can't you tell us if this is racist? And you notice the little header right there says, anti-white tweets. Think that's a little funny? Because if it were the opposite way and people were tweeting this about African Americans, it would have been
the blatant racism of Roseanne's tweet. I just want to read, this is some of Sarah Jeong's tweets that her critics say are offensive. The premise is just white people being miserable and that it must be so boring to be white. She also tweeted, hashtag cancel white people, and oh man, it's kind of sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old white men, and white people have stopped breeding, you'll all go extinct soon, that was my plan all along. Dumb effing white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs. I hate saying that word, I'll just say peeing, on fire hydrants. I don't know why I hate that word.
Shitholes.
You don't have to respond by Twitter. It always gets you in trouble because there's no context. If you're going to do something like that, then you write an article where there's context, where you can respond to people, and it's just not sitting out there like that. And I do have to say, Matt, I think it's a very good point. If I saw something like that from you, I would say, you know what, I'm not sure Matt should be working here anymore, and you probably would not be working here anymore. Who gets to decide what's racist or not? Well,
if this guy says these things, you would definitely come out and say, you know what, he probably shouldn't be working here anymore, and you probably wouldn't. But this person just got hired on at the New York Times, you don't even have an opinion, and you notice every time Don's always talking about context. Yeah, context matters. Maybe if she could have responded with some context. He didn't even show half the tweets she posted. But does he really know what context is?
I've looked at it over and over again. As far as the desk going over, I don't know if the desk fell over because she didn't want to get up or if he pushed over. I don't know. So I think there's context to everything. I would like to see what happened before, and I'd like to see what happened afterwards. But I do agree with everyone, including the commissioner and including Tom. It does look horrible. It does look like there's no excuse for what he's doing to her. But again, we don't know. As the commissioner said, this only shows a small slice in time of what happened. I'd like to know more before passing judgment.
Are you guys kidding me?
No, we're not kidding. We don't know what happened. You weren't sitting in the room, Sonny. You don't know if she wasn't standing up.
I don't need to know more. Let me tell you this.
You do need to know more. As a prosecutor, you should want to know more. Yes, you should.
The law provides, Don, that the standard here is whether or not whether the officer has to use this type of force, whether it's reasonable and necessary.
But how do you know without all the information as a trained professional? How do you know without all the information, Sonny?
Don, this is a young girl. This is a girl in
I agree
school.
with you on that. That's right, but you don't know what precipitated it.
I don't need to know. We see what happens.
Yes, you do need to know.
That force is justifiable is the issue, and the force is not justifiable.
Sonny, hold on for a second.
She is sitting there. She is not resisting. She is sitting there in a chair. That is
you don't know if she wasn't resisting.
Hold on 1 second. We've got some other
assault.
video, Sonny, Don, Tom. This is from a different angle, some other video that has just come in. Let's show it to our viewers.
Don Lemon, the all-knower of context, watching a video, still says, well, were you there? Did you see what happened? We weren't there. We don't know what happened before the cop threw the little girl out of her desk. How much more context do you need, Don? Do you really need more context than that?
1991, in a book. It's called Trumped, by former Trump casino executive John O'Donnell. Donald Trump said, quote, "Black guys counting my money? I hate it. The only kind of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. Those are the kind of people I want counting my money. No one else." Racism and anti-Semitism all rolled up into one quote.
1991? In a book? Don, what are you talking about? You just watched a video and you said we didn't have enough context, and now you're going to take an excerpt out of a book from 1991 and claim that is fact?
The president has failed to condemn the blatant racism of Roseanne's tweet, and instead sent Sarah Sanders out to double down today.
The president simply calling out the media bias. No one's defending what she said. The president is the president of all Americans, and he's focused on doing what is best for our country.
What is best for our country would actually be condemning racism in all forms.
You don't even know that Donald Trump has already denounced racism, the KKK, and neo-Nazis all in one clip?
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
So yeah, Don, if it's best for the country, and he's already done it, then why don't you just move on?
The fact remains more than 2,000 children have already been separated from their parents. Some of them are being held thousands of miles from the border. And the administration can't really say whether the president's executive order will do anything at all for them. So here we are. And to all of you who look at pictures like these and say, oh, I can't believe it. Believe it. This is happening. All of this, you know what, BS is real. And as I said, it's happening in your name and mine. So where's the outrage? I'm not just talking about you. What are we all doing?
You tell me, Don, where is the outrage? Where is it? What were you doing? Because all of this stuff actually came out in 2014. Obama was president then, so you probably didn't want to talk about that. Didn't want to make Obama look bad at all. And it's not like nobody was talking about it, Don. Look at these articles. These were all released in 2014, and yet you were talking about, what were you talking about actually, Don?
Do you take any responsibility in Michael Jackson's demise, in his death?
Michael Jackson?
I would love to spend more time with you. You are an incredible guy.
Oh, let's bring on Mike Tyson. Let's liven things up a little bit. And while you're talking to Mike, there's some children in some cages somewhere in this country, and you're not doing anything about it. Where's your outrage, Don? What are you doing?
Where's the outrage? What are we all doing?
I went out on the streets of New York City to speak with folks. So let's hear from a gentleman who works in a hospital first.
You work in a hospital?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think our hospitals are prepared?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
You're out on the streets finding out what people think about Ebola? I thought you cared about the children being locked up in the cages.
Growing up in Port Allen, here it is.
My ancestry is deeply rooted in what is now known as the Slave Coast.
We gotta go find our roots. We gotta go look at our past, because the past matters so much. You're on vacation, having a good old time with your mom, and meanwhile there's children in cages, Don. Where's your outrage?
Where's the outrage?
Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, drop a like. If you want me to talk about something else, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe with the notification bell on so you get the notification the next time I upload, and I will see you next time on Politicked. Start looking in the mirror, Don, because you're a racist. Get that white hood ready, because the Klan meeting's coming up, baby.